build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello and welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty.
Good evening, I'm Colin.
Good evening, I'm John.
Were you almost tempted to do the good evening there? I don't know if that's a racist thing to do, so apologies if it is, but I know obviously with Unai Emery, he gets his good evening is like his trademark, isn't it? Everybody sort of goes on about it. But then does he say that because he's Spanish and they have like a sort of V thing? So I don't know kind of if
We?
no,
we.
No,
it's not we.
me.
You.
Me. I don't know me if I've done it inadvertently.
I deliberately did it, but not with any intention to be insensitive.
I didn't think you would have any intention to do it. No for a second, John. I was just like, I think kind of it is like it's one of these ones that's on the. I see if somebody wanted to be a dick about it, they would be a dick about it and say that was. But I just think it's like doing a wee impression, which I think is still
a really poor one.
I got it. I knew who you were meaning. Anyway, that's a good way to start.
It's topical. Like, is it not topical? It's topical.
It is, yeah, very topical. Anyway, right. So we're just a short episode tonight. Probably not going to dwell too much on what happened last night. So we're recording on a Thursday night. Last night, obviously, we had the 5-0 loss to Aston Villa, which we'll go into a bit more depth about just now. But just before we start, Ewan Henderson's just gone on loan to, is it Ostend, I think? Is there a West End as well?
See, if I knew my Flemish, I would be making jokes about Ostend boys and
West End girls.
West End girls or whatever it is.
Any thoughts on Henderson going? Good move, bad move? What do you think?
For who? For us or for him? I think it's
both.
Good for both, actually. I think it's good for both. He wasn't getting anywhere near the team. And it's got to free some cash up, give him some minutes, hopefully. And he's a bit loan, eh?
Yeah, it's just a loan.
Because we signed him on like a big fucking long deal, eh? So, it's good because hopefully we'll get freeing some space to get a couple of bodies in, I think.
We need it, eh? John, would you think good move for Henderson?
I think any time he's around the fringes of the first team at the moment, I think there's almost an air around him, like, or the reception that he gets from the fans, like when he's on the fringes of the first team, when he's on the bench, when he makes an appearance. By and large, when he makes an appearance, it hasn't gone particularly well. Think back to the last game of last season where he came on as a sub, and I think he left as a sub, so he was subbed on and subbed off. So he needs that opportunity to get away and kind of get a fresh start, and I don't imagine that we'll see him back at Hibs. It's probably an opportunity for him to sort of showcase his talents elsewhere.
He's another one that suffered with the hype. You came in, the Celtic fans were bumming him up. They played like a handful of games for Celtic. I'm on record as saying how many games he actually fucking played. Fans bought into it on Twitter. Oh, he's like Henderson's brother. He's Celtic fans say he's fucking excellent. Isn't he?
I think part of the hype maybe around Henderson that's not helped is that the story's always been that he was technically better than his brother.
Aye. And the other brother is even better than Beckham, I think. There's the other rumour, isn't there? The one that doesn't even play.
Oh.
So Celtic fans made it up. Like, everybody bought into it.
They sold us a pup.
Aye.
Really? Aye. Okay, right, let's go back to the game last night. And okay, John, we'll start with you. What were your views on the game overall?
I think last night was, do you know what, it was really, really depressing for me because I just saw how misguided I'd been in the past. Like, I used to just think that the amount of money that was available down south, it was just inflated because of like the English transfer market and what have you. But what the money allows teams like Aston Villa to do is just have that massive gulf. Like, they can just buy better players than us. They can, and there's better coaching available, there'll be better facilities available, better everything. And it was just really, really evident last night. It wasn't just a case of, oh, they get paid a bit more money than us because there's a bit more money down south. Like, they are just in a different level entirely.
Colin, what about you?
Pretty much that. I've had this conversation about 5 or 6 times at work today with various different Rangers fan, Hearts fan, Hibs fan, and English folk, and that just think about Scottish football, and it is. It's just like, they'll have personal chefs. They're miles ahead. I mean, our best player. We'll be back on Saturday, and you'll see Boyle or Ewan chasing a ball, and you'll be like, "Fucking brilliant!" Last night, their defenders were jogging alongside them flat out, brushed them off the ball at will, and if for the players that I would imagine there's some of them in that team that aspire to play in the Premier League in England. Let's take Ewan, for example, right? Because I'd imagine that's on his ambitions list. He must have a book like that, full his fucking development plan, because that showed him like how far he needs to go to even just be at a top end mid-table club.
Aye.
Because he was, and I'm not to pick him out, but like for somebody that's like one of your record signings and all that, wasn't he near it? Wrong options, poor decision making, bad touch. Like wasn't he fast enough? Wasn't he? It was like fucking hell. Like how much?
I think the Aston Villa players' ability to take a touch and get the ball under control was vastly better than anything Hibs were capable.
Absolutely.
Of.
Bill,
And it was just.
That's what made the whole difference, John. You nailed it there. That's it. They didn't think about the first touch. We are chasing the ball on our second, or tackling, like diving in to get it back, and you didn't really notice it when we're playing Motherwell or St Mirren or even Hearts and that. But like they boys, there was one point, and I've said this a few times a day, and it was my mate Warren that said it at the time. Their fullback, the left back, he drilled the ball into the centre midfield. It was about 80 odd minutes in. Drilled it in his centre midfield, and all the boy done was quick touch and turn, and he had about fucking 10 yards of space because his touch was that good. The boys drilled it in that fast. They didn't just roll it in, fucking smashed it in. The boy was, and you're like, that's fucking brilliant. Like, and the touch, it's just, and that first touch, no thinking about it and having a touch like that just gives you space. And we're going, get in their face and get all the other stuff you would hear the folks out, and you're like, they're probably trying. But their touch is that good. They're like the snooker player that's fucking lining up for that black 3 shots down. They're already doing that. But we're thinking, fuck, I better go tackle him. He's already passed it. Ken, it's like that was the levels. It was different.
Did either of you think that we had a chance going into the game? Like, do you know when you're standing outside about to go into the stadium thinking, fucking right, we might do something here?
Nah, not really. It was hope rather than think. I said 3-1, predicted 3-1, and I was thinking, well, Ken, hopefully we could keep it down to that. But at work, when folk were saying, I hope he's there all the night and that, because that's what folk were saying at work. Kind of protecting the Scottish game sort of thing. I was just thinking, didn't he get embarrassed?
Aye.
So no, I didn't fancy it.
What were you, John?
I don't know, maybe just for the reasons that I described before, when I thought, actually, like we've come this far, like we deserve to be at this sort of stage of the competition. But I don't know who else was available, but it seemed like we got the worst possible option. And I think, do you know, with the except up until they scored their first goal, like I think we had a couple of half, maybe even quarter opportunities, and for some of the things that Collins described there, we just could not get the ball out from under our feet. Couldn't take a touch. We were having to, I don't know if we were overthinking it, but we just couldn't get the shot away. And they've gone up the other end of the park, and it looked like at first, I've actually not watched the goals back, but it looked like for their first goal, it was almost like a little bit of a half chance. It was one of those like sort of glancing headers. But then as the second header went in and the third header went in, and as I watched the fourth goal unfold, you realise there was something very, very deliberate about what they were doing. Like after that first goal, it was a non-contest, really.
Yeah. And it is so that we should have, like I had that conversation earlier on with somebody as well, like a Hibs fan. It's like we need to close them down better and can get in their faces, and it's easy crosses and all that. And you think it did look like easy crosses, but actually they've created the space. They're stronger than you. Like Campbell, well, one of the goals I've not seen them back either, right? But Campbell was sort of trying to hold the boy rather than win the ball. The guy's stronger than him, eh?
Yeah.
The guy just brushed them off.
I
Get
think
it
the
something.
thing. I think one of the things that I found difficult about getting in their faces, or even just when I was watching the game, there was a moment, second half, and it was down in the corner flag next to the East Stand in the famous five, and John McGinn had the ball, and I forget who the other player was, but it was just those two, and there was maybe like three, four Hibs players around them. But between those two Aston Villa players, they managed to move a little bit, play a couple of passes, and before you knew it, they were at the halfway line. And they were under pressure at that point, and they were just with ease were able to move the ball and relieve the pressure. And we
See
had
triangles and that, eh? It just looked so easy. They made it look, but they're just ahead. Just ahead. Eh?
but
I
that's just the
described it.
difference.
I described it today as we'll all have played fives with a boy that's played for Lynlithgow Rose or Montrose Reserves or something, and went, "Fuck me, he's brilliant. How did he not make it?"
Yeah.
That's how they all felt last night watching them.
Yeah.
That's what the Hibs players all felt like last night.
Aye, I think I made the comparison on .net earlier on about like good players will make average players look shite, and world class players will make like average players like we've got look fucking terrible, or even good players like the good players in our team look bad against the world class players. And I mean, there's no doubt Aston Villa have got world class players, and they've got a boy that's played in the World Cup final, got the boy that has won the World Cup, best goalkeeper in the world. He was voted. Do you know? It's no.
I was hoping
like
they subbed them at half time. They were just going to play any man, but
I think they could have played any man, like for the difference it would have made. Even like I was saying to Josh, like there's no single player on the Hibs team would get into that Aston Villa team, no even their second team.
squad,
right? Their manager's won the Europa League however many times. I think is it 4 times or something? He's won it. Like
he's won a European trophy 4 times. I don't know what.
So, well, let's say 4 European trophies. His name. He's no a mug. Do you know they've got? So they scored for a set piece, but they've got a boy that's paid specifically to be the set piece coach. Kind of Nanny McPhee boy that was at Hearts.
Oh, is he there? Right?
Aye, that's who does the set pieces. It's like every possible advantage, like all the things that we say, like we've maybe got over some of the weird clubs in Scotland. Aston Villa have got over us, but by a distance. Like better, like you said, John, but better facilities, better players, and all the rest of it. And I was getting frustrated last night, and even this morning when I was kind of talking about it, with folks saying about how we should have been closer to them and we should have tried harder and this kind of thing. And I just think we did try. I think the players, I didn't fault them for effort. I didn't think they gave up at any point. But it's like we have this expectation. Like if you look back to when we played Inter in the first round, everybody went fucking mental because they beat us in the first game, but we expected to hammer them in the second because we were like a better team than them, if you like.
Yeah.
But the difference in value between us and them is €8 million, right? Going by that transfer market, right? So round about €8 million. The difference between us and Aston Villa is €540 million. Like, so I just couldn't get my head around. You go, right, well, you're expecting us to easily gub Inter in that round, and it was a fucking scandal when we didn't in the first leg. So even though we progressed in the tie, folks still went mental about it. Or you could take Wraith at the weekend. Everybody was like, well, we should put Wraith away. There was no question about us not being able to beat them because we were worth more than them. 7 million between us and Wraith at 540. But folk didn't make that link to go, well, I don't know if we should be having a name because we're £8 million better than them. If they're £540 million better than us,
If they're saying $500 million,
$500
I think
million
that sounds even better.
Aye.
That brings it into life.
Aye.
A bit better.
The boy Simon Jordan on TalkSport says like it takes Aston Villa 3 weeks to earn what we earn in a year.
Yeah.
I was fair play to him for doing that. I would have thought it would have been Jim White's job on the thing there. I thought he would have been the kind of the archetypal English Scottish football shite kind of. They wouldn't even survive in League One. I've seen that question though. How would Aston Villa do in the Premier League, in the Scottish Premier League? And you're like, well, they'd be on our budget, wouldn't they? So they would probably be up there with Rangers and Celtic because they've got a 30,000 seat stadium, 40,000 seat stadium. So they'd be challenging for first, second, and third. That's what they would be doing. If they put that Aston Villa team in, they would win the league probably undefeated.
Aye, they'd win it hands down. They bother. I mean, aye, because there's no many Celtic players would get into that team. Celtic are the best team in the league, and there's no loads of them that you would say swap that player for that player at Villa. I wouldn't
They
say.
might get some on the bench and that, I don't
Aye.
know, but based on what I saw last night, I can't think who would. Maybe McGregor would probably be kicking about somewhere in that, like, but like technically, and I think he's good enough, but I don't know. Don't know who else.
So if we talk quickly about the goals, because there was a lot of criticism, and I think at the time as well, I was quite critical. The first 3 goals that we lost, I was like, fucking, they seemed all very defendable goals. And again, you could argue every goal's defendable, right? But the first goal, Villa create a bit of space on the left. The boy swings it in onto Watkins' head, and he flicks it in. What could we have done better there?
Oh, stop the cross, defend the cross, but to be honest, I've not seen it back, so I can't remember. I've not seen how bad it looks, like close up to analyse it. I've just at the time that was what I thought. Fucking hell, across, like, and we've not defended it. But, so I think that's most of it, man. So the boy was just coming down that left hand side, and like that third Watkins hat trick one. I know we'll get to it, but I mean that was fucking brilliant. Like that didn't deserve to be chalked off for offside. That wasn't, but like they nearly thought about it.
Yeah, that's the only one that I can remember clearly because I had just a really good view of it. The first 3, it just seemed like I said before, 3 headers could have been easily defended. Or sorry, could we have defended them better? It's hard to say. One, because I can't really remember them other than the ball hitting the back of the net, but it did seem like it wasn't just the 3 goals. There was maybe probably as many opportunities where they've just kind of like knocked one over the bar.
And I'm saying, to correct myself, I'm saying, close the cross down, right? But actually what they were doing was they were dragging our defence left and right, which they're meant to do, right? They're meant to shuffle across, and then two fucking passes like that, and the boys in 10 yards of space. So somebody's got to then run 10 yards to get the cut, and you're not going to make it because their crosses coming in. Well, almost like as soon as you start sprinting out, you've done a yard and the cross is in behind you. You're still no bother shutting it down and getting back to defend it. Like, but you're already at the automatic instinct, well, better go fucking shut that down.
I think this is the thing that I certainly don't properly acknowledge when I'm watching English football is because I'd mentioned that a couple of times recently when I switched on a couple of games. I think it was Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, and I think it was Spurs against Brentford. In both games when I switched over, there was a lot of players not even jogging, like barely moving out of a walk, and they were just kind of like happily knocking the ball about. But I think the way that the game can change is that when the space opens up, they attack that space. And they do it very quickly and very clinically. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a little bit of what we saw last night. And I'm sure I mentioned it in a previous podcast that we're not very good at defending that. Like historically, when we've come up against bigger teams with bigger budgets and what have you, like they have players that start doing what Collins described, moving players out of position. And suddenly you're just caught in no man's land. And the really good teams can exploit that and score a goal in the back of it. And that's really what we came up against last night.
And I think, I can't remember if it was off in between recordings on Sunday or not, but I mentioned Man City Newcastle. I watched that on Saturday night. And I was like, it was quite slow. But then it was like fast as fuck, sort of attack.
What they do is, so I'll give Josh some credit. He said it before, he says, watch what they do. They'll stand on the ball and just stop. And they just do that, we're not going to play. And they wait for somebody to break out to come in. And just as soon as they break out, that's their signal to go. And
what happens if nobody breaks out?
Then they just keep ahead of the ball, and they'll just work it between them. And it's like a game of chess. Like who blinks first?
Yep.
No, that's how you play chess. Like you're allowed to blink in chess.
Aye.
Yeah. And even if you do blink first, that doesn't make it your turn. So bad analogy there, right? Fuck what we do with it, but it is that or poker's probably a better one. Like they just wait till somebody does it, and eventually somebody will break, or they sort of like purposely take like a touch that looks too heavy, so somebody thinks I can get that, and then they just push away and they create the space. And the cross was right onto Watkins' head. I was watched the goals back when I got in. Because at the time I was like, Fish and Hanlon have got to do better. They're 2 centre halves, but actually, the cross misses Fish's head by millimetres. Like his jump, it's just over him and it's right onto Watkins' head. There's not really much Hanlon or Fish can do about that.
Could he have jumped higher?
I don't think so. Even if a lion was after him,
could he have been
83% his maximum jump. No, it's just because he's jumped under one against Motherwell. was it already this season? So I'm just wondering, is he mistimed his jump? Is he
I don't
in the wrong
think so.
position? Is he no jump high enough?
I just think it's a really good cross, which you would expect, and a really good finish as well. It's not even like an easy header for the boy. It's right in his head, but he's still got to direct it into the corner. The second goal comes from a corner, and I think it's Josh Campbell loses the boy at the back. I mean, like you said, calling a bit like wrestling him almost, and then just losing out for strength, and the boy's a free header at the back post. And it looks terrible, but it just comes down to Josh Campbell being strong enough for the boy.
Yeah.
Or focusing on the wrestling rather than trying to get in a position to defend it.
Yeah.
Third one, Hanlon gave the ball away. It was just like one of these.
Oh, was that sort of right-footed clearance that he just passed into midfield?
It's almost the opposite. Well, it's the opposite of what you were saying with the boy. The Villa boy drilled it into that sort of space, and their player collected, take a touch, and he's away.
Just rolled it.
It
wasn't even. He just wanted rid of it.
Aye.
That was my at the time. I thought he just wanted rid. He's kicked it with his right foot. And he's not even kicked it hard. He's not put any height on it. He's not aimed it in the corner to get. He's just fucking got it and got rid of it. Just I'll kick it forward away from me. I don't want it.
And
that's what it looked like.
They did the same. I think pulled us to the right and then hit us on the left, and the boys dinked across to the back post.
Was that the one where Marshall was like pirouetting on the line? What was that? What happened there? Because I was like, what's he fucking doing? But I've been told it's not really his fault.
At the time, I thought it was. I was like, "Fuck's sake, Marshall," because he's come right across the goal line almost. But it's the height.
He's facing the wrong way.
He's faced up to the cross, and the boys stood it up. If that's the expression, because of the height of it, there's no way Marshall can get to it. Like it's too high.
No, it wasn't exciting. It was more the way he turned round on the line. It was like he was facing the wrong way. I need to turn round and.
So he's facing the boy up, and the ball's going over his head, so he's had to turn around. And by which case he turns in, and the boy's headed it in past him by that point. So
I'm struggling with your description, Matty. Can you use another chess analogy for another board game?
So
it's like a pawn. He was like a pawn in a game.
There was like Colonel Mustard, right? You imagine Colonel Mustard's gone into the dining room and he's got the lead pipe, and Marshall's fucking another one, the wee Doug from Monopoly. Anyway, it's just done him. Fourth goal, John. You described just like a cracking move, wasn't it? Down their left, their right.
Just I couldn't have described exactly where any player was. Whoever was playing on the left hand side for them, the ball was pinged over to him, but I think from centre midfield, and he's been running full pelt, and it seemed like he's taken a touch in his stride, stroked into the box, and it's gone under, like the boy's been in there to finish it, took it under Marshall's legs. Like it was just a really fast paced move and a clinical finish that we just didn't have an answer for.
That was a really good goal.
And it was the pace, wasn't it? Again, it's like the pace that they broke at. We just didn't really have an answer for it. And then the fifth comes to a penalty. I think there's any complaints about the decision to get a penalty there. Fairly obvious foul, wasn't it, for Stevenson?
Aye. I couldn't remember it, but yeah, I remember now you say it. Yeah.
Again,
Stevenson was doing a bit of last-ditch tackling in that last night. He did get a couple of last one, like, and you're going, oh, that's good, and you think it's last-ditch for a reason. It's like Colin Hendry School of Football, and he got sat in his arse a couple of times as well. I'm not like criticising him, like, no embarrassment, but he did get sat in his arse a couple of times. But there was definitely a penalty, I think.
And then that was that. There was no lot to be positive about for the Hibs perspective. Did you take any positives from it, John?
No,
I thought Jaco done all right when he came on.
A couple of good balls over the top.
I actually thought he'd done all right. Like, I kind of get silly criticism in that, and like we've probably criticised him and all, but I actually thought he'd done all right when he came on in the second half. But he broke the play up a wee bit in that. More than any of the others. Newell was all right. He's trying.
I think
Newell was trying.
Yeah. I think Newell was playing with a wee bit of grudge. Like there was a couple of tackles that he's put in where he's properly gone through them.
Definitely.
I think he's definitely tried. Like I think it was a Joe Newell performance of late, but I think like Colin described there with Stevenson with like some of the last ditch tackles, like it was wanting. He was like they were doing their best, but their best is just like in like I said before, a completely different league.
Well, Stevenson's is a good has his career as a good Premier League player, Scottish Premier League. These boys are like top internationals and World Cup winners. So,
Yep.
Aye.
it's finding levels, eh?
It is what it is. I kind of had a not an argument with somebody, but just kind of called somebody on Hibs.net earlier on that had said they're on about Josh Campbell. Said he was told it was depth against a far superior opponent. Was obviously like if you're up against a far superior, by definition you're out your depth then, aren't you? Like it's no. Whole team's out of their depth. Right, let's go through some talking points. Right, Ventus Plenty. Our friend Jake Gapper said, thought they played reasonably well up to the second goal. Play like that against Livy and we should win comfortably. Frustrated by Yuan not passing early enough or at all. Maybe time we put someone on posts for corners and free kicks. Tough looking fixtures after Livy, Aberdeen and Kelly away. Should we be putting folk on the posts?
It's up to the goalie, is it not? He's got to organise all that. They must do that and set piece. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about that. I didn't care enough. I didn't care about zonal. I didn't care. Fucking don't know. Like, you put something in the post, and there's pros and cons to it. I've heard them talking about it in the telly. I didn't pay much attention to it, but there's definitely a.
You put someone on the post, there's space elsewhere. There's guys that haven't been marked.
Yeah.
Aye, and we do have everybody back for the corners as well. It's one of the things that we didn't have anybody waiting up front to break out or that. It's just everybody in the box.
Totally agree though on his point about Yuan. That was the biggest frustration for me last night because it's a frustration of mine anyway. At any level of football I watch is folk that didn't pass when the pass is on, and it got totally shown up last night that his decision making's shite, and we'll at times it's shite, and we'll be on Saturday though. We'll be on his feet when he tries to go on a mazy and that. When you think the easy ball's inside. Oh, he's fucking beating the man. Maybe again, there's the ball there, look. He's in fucking Newell inside, 10 yards space. Just give him it. Just do the easy hang all the time rather than that. And when you play good teams, you've got to get shown up for it, and he did.
I want him to keep trying the mad things. That's where the fun in football is.
Aye, but it wasn't fun last night, was it?
No, fucking wasn't it?
No.
Well, not for us anyway. Jimmy said the defence full stop. Is it time for a new defence?
It's been. We're talking all four of them or five of them that played last night. Eh?
Aye.
I think we can get five in before the window shuts. I take it they're probably getting at Hanlon and Stevenson as usual. That'll be where we're getting into.
Well, I think Hanlon and Stevenson will get called out at some point because that's like inevitable when we get a hiding for anybody. But that's just that. Literally, that tweet was just the defence full stop. I don't think you can really look at right.
It's got to be easily avoidable, chat. Hey, that's what there's been. The goals are all easily avoidable or easily defended. You can defend them easily and all that. That's what I've heard and read. And
I don't think that's fair for last night. Like I genuinely don't. I just think like the quality of Villa were just fucking. They make you make mistakes. They make you look silly, and they make it look easy rather than us making it look easy for them. I think it says more about them than it does about us. Defending this season has been a problem with John. That was 17 goals conceded so far this season. Where does the problem lie? Is it as simple as saying it's the defence's fault, or is it the goalie? Is it the midfield not protecting the defence? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I'd be interested to look at Hibs last season and what the numbers of goals scored and conceded would have looked like then compared to now, because I think we go through like peaks and troughs with Hibs, and we have done, I think, in the last, well, let's say under Lee Johnson's tenure. And I think what we're seeing now is, someone mentioned it earlier, it was about open and attacking football, and I think we're maybe getting to see that. But as Colin mentioned before about putting people on the posts, like if you are more open, by definition, you are more open, you're more likely to concede. And there's a little bit of like what you said there about what makes football fun. Can be just the fucking mad shit, and it could just be like, you know, winning 5-4. Like, aye, fine, like you've scored 5 goals, but you've also, there's the negative part of that you've conceded 4 at the same time. It's tricky to call, and I think as well, I think because of the stage that we're at in the season and the results that we've had so far, there's been some highlights there, you know, beating Lucerne at home, making it this far in the European competition, but there's also been the defeats to Motherwell and St Mirren. So
Yep.
it just feels a little bit shit, and it may feel a little more shit because we got fucked 5-0 last night.
Aye. Totally agree with that. Jeff Ashton said the more money you pay, the more faster, stronger, skillful player you get, and this showed last night. With that caveat, does it mitigate calamitous defending, haphazard pressing? We saw individual errors cost a couple of goals too. We got what we expected, not what we hoped for. So does the quality of Villa and the money that they spend mitigate the errors? Is the kind of question there, Colin?
I think so. They're making you make errors as well, aren't they? You know, it's not. It wasn't like somebody like rolled a short pass back or anything like that. They were getting pushed, like not pushed because it wasn't a foul, but like just bullied off the ball, dragged over the park, made to look weak, slow. Like there was no like obvious mistakes. Well, obviously Campbell, but he wasn't strong enough. That wasn't a mistake. He just wasn't fucking. His mistake was thinking he was going to be strong enough.
Not got at the gym, not got his protein.
Wonder if they went and asked Aston Villa what they did for the breakfast. Ziggy on his reindeer said, thought we looked pretty good until losing the first goal, but I suppose last night was somewhat inevitable. They look a whole step faster all night. Boyle and Yuan are probably two of the fastest players in Scotland, yet they were unable to beat their opposite man. Colin, you kind of touched on that earlier on, didn't you? But the defenders jogging back. I think there was one moment Yuan burned their man for pace in the second half. But the rest of the time,
is that the one when he ran the ball? Or was it a different
no, he did they let him run because he was offside.
He was offside then.
By the way, Villa played that offside trap fucking superbly. Like,
and we were shite at it. With two fast guys like that, like you've got to try and time. Like you can get yourself half a yard, or you should be able to. But I don't think maybe that was actually the thing. They were like, I'm not fucking faster than him. I'm going to have to go further than I normally do, closer to the line. Maybe the offside wasn't. They were well organised, but maybe they were thinking, I'm going to have to play the line here where normally we'll get half a yard because they've got to go. I
wonder if they started offside and hoped that the linesman wouldn't notice it.
We might have a linesman.
Because it was a few, eh?
Aye.
I think there was about 4 or 5 first half for Martin Boyle alone.
400 or 500 it felt like. And it was a deliberate tactic as well because Emery talked about it in his post-match, said that they wanted to play the offside because they were a good long ball, as they called it. Jamie Ure said, probably discussed many times, but how have we regressed to the point where we have a poorer team than that which competed in the Championship from 2015 to 17? You have spent an absolute fortune. What's going on with recruitment?
Have we got a worse team than then, do you think?
I think so. I don't know.
The team that couldn't get out of the Championship we're talking about here, eh?
Well, the team did get out of the Championship eventually, didn't it? In that period,
eventually,
go to 2 cup finals. Won a cup. Between 2015 and 17, but it doesn't have a good team. I don't know. What do you think, John? Do you think we're better or worse than that period?
It certainly feels worse. I think when we came back up after our time in the Championship, that was a good. I'm going to say it was a good side. We didn't lose a lot of points, and we had that, as we've discussed before, we had that second part of the season where everything was golden, it seemed. We had a good run in the Scottish Cup. We had a decent crack at Europe with Triple East. I forget who we got knocked out by eventually.
I didn't get as far as this in the tournament.
Did we not?
Didn't get the final playoff. You know, it was earlier than that. We were already out by now. So
it's hard to say whether we've regressed. Again, like I go back to like just how awkward and frustrating that it feels at the moment. Like as Colin says there, we've reached a later stage of European competition than we did with that really good team of 2016, 17, 2017, 2018.
And I suppose you can point to points that we dropped against fucking Alloa and teams like that, kind of consistently losing to.
Even that year we won the Championship, it was fucking littered with draws.
Aye.
Yep.
And Waiting Morton and all that shite results, like dull stuff. But it's glossed over, because you remember the good bits.
Because there was three good months bookended by a 5-5 draw that was really exciting. We were that
Right.
close to qualifying for whatever the fuck it was we were going to qualify for.
Well, it was nearly second place till we blew it at Tynecastle.
Well, it was a nearly second.
Aye. Tony Swanson said, apart from the formation being my only gripe, there was a massive gulf in the teams last night shown by the financial side alone. To single out any player of the team is wrong. Could they have done better? Unsure. We do, however, have to sort out defending crosses. It's a long-term issue. Charlie said, thought the atmosphere towards the end showed a real sign of progression. Still singing at 5-0 down. It just shows you that LJ has brought us on a long way, regardless of how we feel about him. Playoffs should be where we are each season, minimum. Is the fact that we were singing at 5-0 down sign of progression?
It's to mediocrity, is it not? Was somebody singing? I can't even remember any singing at 5-0, but I'll take the word for it. Like.
It's a funny thing, because we had, and I kind of might not be a popular viewpoint, right? But you had Block 7 in behind the goals, and I actually thought last night the East was where all the noise was coming from. Until the game was fucked, until it was 5-0, and then there was some noise coming for the Block 7 guys, but I didn't think the Block 7 guys were really, I wasn't noticing that much there, and certainly no more or no less than when they're in the East.
No, I didn't. I do kind of. They're trying, but certainly I didn't think it was. I'm not going to start criticising him now.
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. And listen, they were at 5-0. They were giving it loudly and definitely trying to create some atmosphere. So kudos to them for that. John Mitchell said, obviously outclassed, but we made it so easy for them with their defending. If not addressed, it will define our season. Hanlon and Fish isn't working. Chris Lee said, is it now time for Hanlon and Stevenson to now go full time at the foundation? We kind of covered the defence already. Gaza said, Johnson talking down our club, English League One club, is an insult to me. So I think Johnson reckoned that we are about the equivalent of a League One team in England, which I think...
Budget he was talking about. It was budget. League One budget.
Right. It's probably
did he enunciate
right
it the same way that you did? Did he enunciate the T in budget when he was talking about it?
It was quite close to Pivot. Do you know that episode? Pivot. Fred's Pivot. Budget. JPJ White said Villa could have put 5 passes, whatever we tried to do, they would have found a way. I think that was the key bit for me. I think Villa would have won that match comfortably, however they wanted to do it. Just it so happened it went the way it did. Elson Loon said, what's with the John McGinn love in? Surely he's a former player that played his part, but really... Also, did your boy, how do you pronounce this? The winger, Digne. What's his name?
Is it Digne?
Digne. Thank you, John.
Lucas Digne, I think.
Yeah, that's
you can ask Leon on Saturday because he's French.
Did your boy Digne have Bouff and BO? Nobody seemed to want to stand within 20 yards of him out on the line. He was a good player. He was outstanding, that boy.
Wasn't it? But it was like they were deliberately creating space for him. I mean, Rangers do it, like not as well, but that's what Rangers do. They create space up the flanks, and kind of you sit at Rangers going, look at the fucking space they've got in the left here, and that was like that last night. But it's deliberate. They're dragging the team over to that side and they're pinging it out to him. It's like it isn't like nobody was trying to get near him. It was like they were deliberately creating that space for him.
Sean says, St Mirren or Aston Villa, they're all identifying and punishing the same defensive frailties. Here comes the bit you can't answer. How are we going to sort it? New players, better coaching tactics, or a better coach because it needs sorting. So how do you sort it?
Well, you didn't play Aston Villa, right? And then that's immediately you're in a
better situation.
Playing Aston Villa takes away the fear of playing Aston Villa.
Exactly. Now I get the point. Like we have lost to Motherwell and St Mirren, and they were defensive errors in their games. I'm not convinced that they were defensive errors. That's Hearts winning 2-1. I'm not convinced they were massively defensive errors. It was like they were. Oh, I suppose for every goal, you could say, "Oh, the defence, you should have defended that better." But actually, there's another side of it, which is the team made a goal and created a goal.
Aye.
And like, how many times did we talk about a Scott Allen passing goal? Oh, fucking both of Scott Allen. But it's actually, if we're on the end of it, we're going, fucking defender down there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just we're trying to criticise these boys for not being able to, not being at fucking English Premier World Cup winning level. Like they're just better than us. They just created space. They made their defenders, and it's no help that they've not been great against St Mirren and Motherwell, because then it's easy to do this. But I don't think, like with the Johnson argument, I don't think we can use the Aston Villa result as a reason to hammer our defence, and I think we can use it as a reason to hammer Lee Johnson. We can if we fucking lose to Livingston again, and we'll go five games in defeated in a row in the league.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be going, and we got beat fucking 10-0 off Aston Villa, because that's what's going to happen. And the defence, for they start singling out defenders or the whole fucking defence. There was 5 in defence, I think, last night.
Well, I think now you've mentioned there about that 10-0 call, and that's kind of ruined my next question was, do you think we can turn it around?
I know.
All we need to do is score 5 and keep it tight for the...
It's that early goal, you never know,
Right. A couple more talking points before we wrap up. Paul McQueenie said, last 50 games conceded in 39 of them, 85 goals conceded in total. Why have we not replaced the defence and keeper? But all knew it wasn't good enough to be starting 11 this season. Will Fish apart, even he has been dreadful since coming back in. So the keeper was replaced, but then the replacement got injured, right? So I think we need to be fair there. Miller's playing at right back, but he wasn't playing. I think why Stevenson's playing at left back and no Abita when you brought Abita in as a left back. That would be a question I would ask there. And we've got Hardbottle. Like, I mean, there have been defenders brought into the club, but it is definitely a problem. JDP Tactica said, sick of hearing folk talk about the difference in budget, etc. That's obvious, but if you defend crosses properly, 4 of the goals are avoidable.
Nobody will listen to this then. Hearts goal's been chopped off.
Is it?
Just live up. Everybody listen to this on Friday morning.
This is podcast far. That's what's happened. VAR's hit the podcast world.
I feel like Charlie Nicholas there. I'm sitting here thinking, right?
Hold on.
Wait, hold on. It's just, you need to put your finger in your ear for it. Hold on. Breaking news. Gav said the little Euro spell has been fun, but just shows how far behind Scottish football really is. Never expected anything from facing Villa, and also think other Scottish clubs will struggle. Structure and finances just aren't there to be able to compete at this level. Who's to blame? Or Scottish football for not taking the chance to stand up to Celtic and Rangers back in the day. JXM73 said, how do we spend the £1 million? He says O'Hara for St Mirren and loan a left back.
He's a good player, O'Hara.
We definitely need something on that left hand side. Ronan, which I think is the last one we've got, is why do you think LJ's logic was in starting? What do you think LJ's logic was in starting Campbell against Villa, given the fact he was hooked after 30 and 45 minutes in his 2 previous starts against St Mirren and Wraith for being so poor? He frequently gives the ball away, and against Villa, that's absolutely criminal.
Who else is there?
What was the alternative, Diego or Henderson?
Doyle Hayes was on the bench, but I mean he's been injured for a while, so I thought it was Diego or Campbell, wasn't it? Effectively, and Doyle Hayes was always going to be. If he was going to be on the bench, he was always. If he's fit, he's always going to be on the bench, just based on not being available for the last few weeks.
Were we 2-0 down when we subbed Campbell in the first game, and in the second game it was a bit of a damp squib and probably needed something else in midfield? Is it fair to say that Campbell was substituted because he was so poor? Or were there perhaps other reasons for it?
I don't think Campbell's had a good season. I think he's been playing through an injury, right? To be fair to him, but I don't think he's not at the levels he was hitting last season. And I think he's really had any grounds to complain when he's been taken off, or if he's not played. Last night, like I was saying, I don't think you can judge him on last night. He's playing players that are fucking miles ahead of him, and that's not his fault. Like, none of the players last night you would say that, like, you criticise for losing their individual battles, etc.
I tell you, it's a proper reality check for some of them, and I don't know what they're saying, but I'm sure that some of them are thinking, I want to go down to England and play, right? I want to go, and that's just showed them. That's why Pochis is with the Championship, because he's not at that level. You know what I mean? He wants to get there, so he's on a stepping stone to get there. But he's not. That's why Villa wouldn't have signed him, because he's not up to that level either. He would have looked like that last night, no?
Aye, it's bad. I suppose that's what you pay the money for. Ultimately, and it does come down to that. It's just is what it is. Right, very quickly then to wrap up. Predictions for Saturday. John, how's it going to go?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about next week. Saturday, Livingston. We're probably going to get beat 2-1 because it's Livingston, because we're feeling miserable. And I didn't see, and there's, I live here, but no one ever goes to Livingston to get cheered up.
Nobody.
Nobody. Nothing good comes. Nothing good. Nothing good comes from facing Livingston when you're miserable, or going to Livingston when you're miserable.
I used to get cheered up when I got a pair of Clark shoes for the bins for school for like half the price of what they were, and real Clarks.
To be fair, like Clarks do that proper like measurement thing, so they give you like the number and the letter, which I've never had in any other place.
Colin, what was your prediction?
I reckon John's a size 11F. We've got to win. Like, got to win it. Like, I'm not saying, I'm not giving it the must-win chat and all that. And based on that conversation we had last week about just shifting the ultimatum on Johnson week by week, but if we don't win on Saturday, there's got to be a noisy minority. I mean, not minority anymore, chasing him.
I think there's an argument to be made that it needs to be a convincing win. Like, it can't just be like a 1-0 off someone's arse. It'll need to be a dominant performance, no errors, all that sort of stuff, because otherwise, like you're saying, Colin...
Absolutely. The folk are looking for it now, eh? It's like looking, and then they'll be like, and fucking 5-0 Villa, you know, it'll be the new Malmo, worst defeat ever, and all that stuff.
Yep.
And also what will happen as well, we spend more money than Livingston, so we should be running on both a part like Villa than us.
Aye.
And we should, to some extent.
Well, yeah, we've said that.
It's bigger golf, but we should be able to do, to a degree, what Villa didn't ask, we should be able to do to Livingston and Ross County and that. We should be able to drag them about the park, knock it about, but we're no. But it's not. It's not $500 million, but it should be enough. We're paying players thousands and thousands of pounds a week, and they're paying them hundreds, up to $1,000 a week. So we should be able to do it to them.
Aye, I
seldom do.
I was speaking to the Livy podcast, Ewan, through previewing the game with him, and we were talking about Omiyonga. I think he said he was on the £300 a week.
Nice.
Like, which you compare to what the players at Hibs are getting, and
has he got another job then?
I think he can. I don't know. I think Omiyonga had plenty of money for his time in Italy. Probably from when he was at Hibs as well. All right, we've got hospitality calls. So Leon won the competition, Leon Rousseau. So well done, Leon.
If he's going to win the competition, you could at least get his surname right.
No,
it's Rousseau.
No, I wanted to say that just because it'll fucking annoy him, and he'll go, "Oh, that's wrong," and then on Saturday, he got my name wrong, and then I'll have a wee smile on myself about it, and I'll continue to say it like that as well.
Get it wrong every time you say it. Do it a different way.
I like me things like that. They just fucking amuse me. Sorry, Leon. Anyway, or Leon. So we're in there with Lee Spirits, Stoke Whiskey Row. They're releasing a new gin, so look forward to trying that as well. Hopefully, it's a couple of gins. Aye, right.
The football doesn't matter as much when you're in there. We said that last time. You did feel like you got the football when you're in hospitality.
Aye. Much better experience. Okay, right. Well, we're away to record short bangers now, so if you're a subscriber, you'll get that. If you're not a subscriber, you can go and find it anyway. It's on the 17 Week podcast. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in. I was going to
say, if you're not a subscriber, you can fuck off.
Fuck taking on the free stuff, you fucking cheap bastard.
Well, I wasn't going to say that. I thought I was going to tell them where they could find it. Anyway, right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your talking points, and we'll see you next time. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.